Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. You'll notice I'm not there today, but that's okay. We're still going to go over your homework, do a little bit of a review for those of you who were a little bit confused on parts of your homework, and then we're going to talk about a couple new things today. So what I'd like you to do right now is I want you to get out your homework because we are going to go over the answers of the odd problems. Now, I encourage people to try the evens as well, and if you did those, you'll get a little bit of extra credit, not much, but just a little bit, and hopefully you get more practice. But what we're going to do is we're going to go over the answers of the odd problems. And so what I'm going to do with this very first one is I'm going to try to work it, and then the other ones I'm just kind of going to zip through the answers for the most part. But so hopefully you have your homework out by now. And so we're going to look at this first one where it said we have this point that is f, which is 3, -6, and our slope is 1/3. Okay, so there's two basic ways of doing this. You either probably did y equals mx plus b, or you did y minus y1 equals slope times x minus x1. And so then either way, you plug in the 1/3 for the slope, and then this is your x and y, or your x1 and y1, depending on if you're using the first or second. So I could plug in the x and y and my slope all on the same line, and this would say -6 is equal to 1/3 times my x value of 3 plus b. And that would become -6 is equal to 1/3 of 3 is 1 plus b. And if you subtract 1 from both sides, then you get that b is equal to -7. So then your equation would be y equals 1/3 x minus 7. That's pretty simple. Okay, now if you use the point slope form, the second one, then you would write it as y minus y1, get this -6, equals my slope, 1/3 times x minus x1, 3. And so this becomes y plus 6 is equal to 1/3 x, 1/3 of -3 is -1. And then again, we have to subtract 6 from both sides, and this becomes y equals 1/3 x minus 7. And notice it's the exact same answer because math is true. Okay, now I know I did those both really quickly, but I'm hoping that you saw the general idea, because this is where we were kind of spent a lot of time yesterday, that if we were given a slope and if we were given a point, then we could either use this formula or we could use this formula, and we would get the equation of a line. Okay, and that's what those are right there. Those are the equations of a line. Okay, so for these next few, I'm just going to kind of give the answer. Okay, but hopefully for number one, you got y equals 1/3 x minus 7. And if you didn't, I don't know if you can quickly look through here and see where maybe you went wrong. For number 3, this one has a slope of 7, which is a very steep slope, and it goes through the point 3,3. So this one would be y equals 7x minus 18. Okay, next, number 5. Number 5 has a slope of 1/6, and it goes through the point -3, -2. Now, this one doesn't come out totally clean, but it's not that bad. It should be y equals 1/6 x minus 3/2, or y equals 1/6 x minus 1.5. Or y equals 1/6 x minus 1.5. All of those are the exact same answer. It's just that we're writing that b value a little bit differently. -3/2 is the same thing as -1.5, which is the same thing as -1.5. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. Number 7 goes through the point 1, -9. It's got a pretty steep slope of 4. So that would be y equals 4x minus 13. All right. And then for 9 through 15, you were given an equation, and your job was to write it in slope-intercept form and then graph it. And so for this first one, it said 2y equals 8x minus 2. And slope-intercept form, the most basic fundamental rule of slope-intercept form is the y has got to be by itself. You got to have a y all by itself. It's got to say y equals. Okay, and so you're always trying to isolate the y on one side of the equal sign all by itself. And so for this one, all I had to do was divide everything by 2. 2y divided by 2 is y, 8x divided by 2 is 4x, and -2 divided by 2 is -1. And so then I got this equation right here, this y equals 4x minus 1. And this is my real quick graph drawn, okay? I said, well, we'll go down here and say the y-intercept is -1, and we're going up 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And so it's got a slope of 4, okay? Next, we have this equation that says 3x plus 9y equals 18, okay? And again, our job is to try to get that y by itself. So the first thing I did is I subtracted 3x from both sides, which then gives me the equation of 9y equals negative 3x plus 18. We're getting really close to having that y by itself, but it's got a 9 in front of it, so we divide everything by 9. And that simplifies down to what we see right here, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. And then this is the graph. I've got a y-intercept of 2, and my slope is negative 1/3. A negative slope is always going to go down as you go from left to right, and that's what we see happening here. This one's going down. It goes down 1 over 3. Down 1 over 3, okay? And so that's the slope of that one. Moving on, number 13. Number 13 says y plus 7 equals 2x. This was probably the easiest one. All we had to do was subtract 7 from both sides, and it goes from being this equation right here to slope-intercept form right here, and where this would be the slope and this would be the y-intercept. So if we have a slope of 2 and a y-intercept of negative 7, we got to go down to negative 7, and we just simply go up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1, and we can draw the line through there, okay? And that's what the graph of the line would be. Now, number 15 was probably, I think, the hardest. I could be wrong, but I think it's probably the toughest, because it's not the hardest that it's such a hard problem to do, but it's the easiest to make a lot of mistakes on, okay? When people do this, what they see this y, 5 minus y, and they sometimes attribute that negative sign right here to the 5, when it clearly belongs to the y. And so what people will do is they will add 5 to both sides, when that's wrong. This right here is a positive 5. So to move that 5, I need to subtract 5 from both sides. Okay, that's what I have to do. And when I do that, then the other mistake that people make is they don't keep that negative sign with the y. If I subtract 5 from both sides, see, this negative sign is connected to that y. And so that comes down right here, and I've got negative y is equal to 3/4 x minus 5. But now I have to get rid of that negative y. So what I can do is I can either multiply or divide everything by a negative 1. To multiply by a negative 1 is the same thing as to divide by a negative 1. So a lot of times we think of multiplication as being a little bit easier, so that's how I'm doing it. So I go, okay, negative 1 times negative y would give me y equals negative 1. This would be negative 3/4 x plus 5. Okay, and there's my equation. So again, this is my graph. There's my y-intercept of 5. My slope of negative 3/4 means I go down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Down 3, 1, 2, 3, over 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and so there is my graph. Hopefully that works for you. Okay. For 17 through 23, we were just told to graph each line, and so I drew some basic graphs. They're not very pretty, but they will do. 5x, y equals 5x plus 4, that's a very steep slope. 5, that's almost, practically vertical. And so 4 is my y-intercept where I start, and I simply just go up 5 over 1, up 5 over 1. Okay, now this is the wild one. If you got this one right, then you either remember some stuff from Algebra 1, or you looked it up on how to do it, or you are just a natural-born superstar, which is possible. But here's the deal. With x equals negative 2, this is an odd one. What we got to do is we actually got to go back to where x is. This is the spot, on the x-axis where x is negative 2. It would be, I'm going to draw it with a different color, it would be right here. Now, the fact that there's no y in this equation anywhere means that y doesn't matter. And so here, y is 0, where I put that point. And so I could go up from there where y might be 2. And what would x be? X would be negative 2. I could go down where x is maybe negative, or y is negative 6. X would be negative 2. And no matter where I go y, I go up or I go down, x is always negative 2. It's negative 2 over and over and over and over and over and over. And so that happens so many times that eventually you can see I get a vertical line, okay? I get a vertical line. And so this is something I need to recognize. And it's going to be one of the things we talk about today, but I'll go ahead and mention it. And that is that if you ever have the equation of a vertical line, or if you ever have x equals some number, that is the equation of a vertical line. So, vertical line is always x equals some number. That'll always be the equation of a vertical line. That's what we have here. Okay, we looked at number 21 and we see another situation. Now all of a sudden we don't have an x. Now this one isn't radically different if you think about it. If I put this in slope-intercept form, it would really say y equals 0x minus 5. That would be the only way I could make that x disappear, would be to multiply it by 0, which means that is literally my slope. My slope is 0, which means if I say my slope is 0, if I got in an elevator and said I went 0 floors up, and then I went 0 floors down, I didn't go anywhere. And so slope of 0 means you don't go up or down. You just go horizontally, okay? And so this tells you where. You go at y equals negative 5. So I count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the y-axis, and it just goes horizontally because no matter what the x value is, the y value is always negative 5. I can go way out in the positive x's, I can go way back in the negative x's, and no matter where I go, the y value is always just negative 5. So again, I get a horizontal line. Okay, so that leads us to our second idea, and that is a horizontal line, or the equation of a horizontal line, will always be y equals some number. Okay, simple enough. Y equals some number. All right, now to finish it out, number 23, we have this equation, y equals negative 2/3 plus 2. We got a y-intercept of 2, and then we got slope of negative 2/3, so we go down 2, 1, 2 over 3, 1, 2, 3, down 2, 1, 2 over 3, 1, 2, 3, down 2, 1, 2 over 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and so there's my line right there. All right. Okay, and then here's the answers to 25, 29, 27, and 31. I'd like for you to check your answers and see how you did. But 25, what we were supposed to do is just come up with the equation based off of 2 points, and you should have y equals negative 3x plus 13. On number 29, you should have y equals 2x plus 4. 27, y equals 1/2 x minus 3. And on 31, you should have y equals negative 1/5 x minus 6/5. Yes, that's an ugly one. Okay, now, while I am showing no work right here or here or here or here, okay, you have to show some work. I did these already ahead of time, but if you want any credit, you got to show work. Okay, so what I'm going to have you do right now is I'm going to have you go ahead and turn in your homework. You can go ahead and pass it up to the front. And as you're doing that, you can also get out something with which to write and something on which to write. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you one problem to try right now. Okay, and then I'm going to work through it completely and we'll see how that goes. All right, so go ahead and turn in your homework, and here's the deal. What I want to do is I want to give you 2 points. So I'll give you the point negative 4, 7, and the point, let's see here, 8, 1. Okay, and what I want you to do is I want you to come up with the equation of the line that passes through those 2 points. And so to think about how I'm going to do that, the first thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to find slope. And then I'm probably going to want to either use point slope, which is the y minus y1 equals, oops, wrong thing, slope times x minus x1. Or you're going to use the slope intercept, which is the y equals mx plus b. You're going to plug everything in. And then you're going to simplify. Simplify. And by simplify, I mean you're going to make it say y equals, whatever the rest is. Okay, so we're going to pause the video right here. I'm going to give you guys about 3 minutes or so. And I want you to find the slope of the line that passed through those 2 points. Use one of these 2 methods. And then plug everything in, and then simplify, make it say y equals, so you have a nice simple equation. Okay, we'll pause the video right now. Ready, set, go. Okay, well, let's see how you did. We can get rid of all that. Okay, like I said, the first thing we want to do is find slope. And slope is always abbreviated as m. And slope is always the difference of the y's over the difference of the x's. And so the difference of the y's, in this case, we could say 7 minus 1. And if I do 7 first, then I got to do -4 first on the bottom and say -4 minus 8. 7 minus 1 is 6. -4 minus 8 is -12. 6 over -12 would reduce to -1/2. Now, maybe you switched your x's and y's, and the order, rather. And so maybe you did 1 minus 7 over -8 minus 4. And that would be okay. Well, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a -8. It'd be -8. It'd be 8 minus a -4, rather. 1 minus 7 is -6. 8 minus a -4 is 12. And either way, that reduces to -1/2. So it doesn't matter which point you use first. If I use this point first or if I use this point first, it does not matter. What does matter is that if the y value from that point has to be above the x value from the same point. And so likewise, the y value from this point has to be above the x value from the same point. So notice they line up here as well. They line up there in the same way. And that's why we get the right answer, that the slope is -1/2. Okay, now I'm going to show you both ways of doing it because I don't know how you feel about both the two methods, but maybe you did the y equals mx plus b method and you plugged everything in. Well, I would go ahead and probably use this point, and then I'm going to use this slope right here. They're the same slope. So I'm going to go ahead and plug everything in. So my y value is 1 equals my slope is -1/2. My x value is 8 plus b. So I get 1 equals, now -1/2 of 8 would be -4 plus b. And then you add 4 to both sides. And that gives you 5 is equal to b. Now, once you know that, you can plug that back in and you get y equals -1/2 x plus 5. Okay, and that's not too hard. But some people prefer that point slope method. I actually do. And it's okay if you don't like this method, but this is the way I've always done it, and we'll kind of always lean towards that way. And but so I would say y minus y value, what was my y value? 1 if I'm using that point that's highlighted in red, equals my slope, -1/2, times x minus the x value of 8. So I get y minus 1 equals -1/2 x plus -1/2 times -8 is +4. And then for this one, I have to add 1 to both sides, and I get y equals -1/2 x plus 5. And check it out, it's the same answer because math is true. Hopefully that is the answer you got, and if you didn't get that, hopefully you see where you went wrong. Okay, what we're going to do is I'm going to have you try some other ones, but it's going to be in a different video that we're going to show in just a second.